We gonna talk about it right here. I'm gonna talk about everything you like. I'm gonna make it real quick, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'm gonna talk about it. Yeah, cause it's Tynee Talks. And I'm gonna talk about it. Hey, you already know I love my intro. I love my theme music. I love it, love it, love it. Hey, 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 hey. And welcome to the Tynee Talks podcast, the podcast that educates and entertains, the podcast where you come to laugh and learn. I am your host, Tynee, and today we are going to be talking with the incomparable author, mother, radio host, community leader, advocate for all things good in the hood, Jordyn Anese today. And we're going to be talking about her book, Forgive Them. Let me put it on the screen, excuse me. Forgive Them and Parent Better. And today, what we hope for you to gain from this talk is healing, forgiveness, whether it's with a co-parent, a family member, a friend, whoever you need to have forgiveness for, including yourself. We hope that by the end of this talk, that some form of healing take place. So without further ado, welcome Ms. Jordyn Anese.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say it's an honor.
Come on, honor.
Yes, girl. Well, I've told you this on the social media and I think via text, but you are the reason for me even continuing my podcast. It's such a difficult thing to continue when you feel like you're talking to yourself. But I'm like, you know what? Tynee is a girl who is proud to be a yapper, and I'm just gonna be proud to be a yapper. You know what I mean? Like we're the girlies
Yes.
from Slick, and we just need to be proud of our positions and who we are. And so you doing that light that you have in that area has shined on me, girl. So I had to say it for the people to hear.
First and foremost, that means the world to me because sometimes, I listened to this podcast one time and they were saying, sometimes you look at your numbers, right? And you're like, oh, wow, these numbers look low. You might have only had 100 views or 87 views or 57 views, right? Yeah. These are numbers. And the person said, that's great. Because you have to look at it as if we were doing it in person, imagine 100 people following behind you. Ooh. That's a huge number. Imagine 80 people following behind you. Imagine 50 people following behind you. So when that person, I can't even remember what podcast it was, but when they put it in that perspective, it made me realize like low to who, you know what I mean? And even if one person heard it or 100 people heard it and they were helped, then the job was done. You know what I mean? So I keep that at the forefront of my heart, my mind. And so thank you for saying that my light shed a light on you to keep going.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we are yappers,
Woo, we love it.
My husband said the other day, is water wet? Of course you love to talk. Hello.
Glad to know.
Sometimes we like to hear our own voice. Like
Truly.
Maybe we talking to ourselves. Maybe we need to hear it the most. Okay. So to my talkers out there, I wore a mama shirt today because Jordyn's book, Parent and Forgive Them, Forgive Them and Parent Better, is really to me a journey on parenting at different points of parenting. Yeah. And you talk about that from conception to present day.
Absolutely.
And I want you first to tell the talkers what was the motivation behind you writing this guide of helpfulness. I'll call it a guide for helpfulness because even though I've been a mom for 15 years now, it was even helpful for me. So what was the inspiration behind it?
So my inspiration was crazy. So originally I've been telling my friends for years. I'm like, I'm gonna write a book. I'm writing a book, y'all. I'm writing a book. And they like, where's the damn book? You know what I mean? Like you've been talking about this forever.
Where's that?
I mean, girl, I interviewed my brother because I'm thinking I'm gonna talk about my upbringing. I got an older brother, we, raised together, same home. I'm like, but I know that children have different perspectives on how they're raised. I interviewed my brother. He thought it was silly. I'm serious. I got a notepad. I was like, you said what? I was very serious. And I tried to write that, and it was like God was like, don't nobody want to hear. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, not from
Yeah,
you. That's not it. That's not the one. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
so what is it? And one day I'm sitting and I had just got back into the flow of like a Substack and like writing, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, this just feels so good.
mhm.
I'm sitting and I just started thinking about my story from beginning to present day. And I heard God say, like, that's it. And I was like, excuse me, I'm new. I'm like, I'm a new mother.
Yeah, yeah.
Baby, don't, I
Like, what could I possibly offer?
I have nothing for these people. They're gonna be looking at me like, girl, you've had a
Not
kid.
nothing. You
You got 20
you had
minutes
some.
to be a mother. You know what I mean? So at first I was like, no. And then it just started to actually flow. It started to flow. I'm beginning to, reach back into like old journal entries to kind of get a real feeling for how I was feeling at the time. Because I'm one of those people who journal and I will put the date. I'm putting the date on there. I need to know that it was a Wednesday in 1990. You know what I mean? Like that I felt like this. I was
Yes.
a girl. So I'm going back to those old journals and I'm reading them. And I just was like, oh, girl, look at who you used to be. Oh, babe. You know what I mean? Your mind was
Yeah.
really doing a thing to you. So as I was doing that, and I just started writing and I just kept going. And then when I finished, I told my friends, I'm like, so I wrote that book. Remember, I said in 2016 I was going to write a book. I've written it. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh my God, are you finished? When are you going to release it? I'm like, actually, I need you all to read it. You know what I mean? So I'm sending it to them and getting feedback. And it was just like, go from there. Cause I was like, maybe I'll keep it and I'll release it on my birthday, like May 2nd, 2026. I'm like, that's the day. And I was in prayer because I'm one of those girls who is just like, Lord, I need to hear a word from you. And he was like, the word is now. The word is go. Like, go ahead and
Okay,
put it. The
sister.
long you've sat on this long enough, sister.
Yeah.
The longer you sit,
He said, daughter, release.
release them. Okay.
1, 2, 3. Release it.
Okay. Release. And I was like, okay. So, I went ahead and I decided to use chat as like my editor, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking that's gonna be easy. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. You have to go back and tell chat, baby. That don't sound like me.
Yeah.
I am a
And
black girl from
that right there is super important. With me being an educator, because the kids love the chat
love them
and,
deep. They
and
love it
all the
deep.
humans, but they got to understand people know your voice versus a robot.
They do.
Do you get what I mean? And so I
Oh,
get
I
what you're
do.
saying when they edit it, but you're like, it has to sound authentically from me. I have to put my soul into this because ChatGPT is soulless. It's
Literally,
soulless.
it is.
You gotta put so that's when my former college roommate Tarshina Armstrong said this when she was on a panel,
Mhm.
and she was like, do I think chat will replace people? And she's like, no, it cannot replace the culture, the energy of everything, right? So it had to have you in it.
It had
You
to. It gave that thing back to me. I said, I sound like a 25-year-old white woman from suppose this is not what I said. You know what I mean? I went back. I said, let me just write it over because chat did great with some of the suggestions and those points. You know what I mean? But going back, writing it over, looking over the punctuation and trying to make it as perfect as possible. I went back and read it since, and I'm like, girl, like this part, you could have. And I'm like, yeah, but chat had pissed me off so bad, child. I didn't even send it back through that girl. You know what I'm saying? Like we've worked it out since then, me and Chat. We ain't beefing no more. I've forgiven her, but it was
right.
just
You
like
had to. You were writing about forgiveness.
you had to move past it. You know what I mean? But I did decide to go that route because I'm like, this is such a deep work. You know what I mean? Like it's completely in my business. You know what I mean? Like, so
All
to
up in there.
I said, I don't know if I'm ready yet for someone to be in it. I know I'm going to release it because, you know, I can't, I've been on the side of disobedience to the Lord. I know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I just am so protective of the work right now that I need to kind of have my hands on it and learn from the experience. You know, like I'm one of those people who do, fortunately, learn the hard way. And I need to learn from experience what this looks like. So I went ahead and edited it up, made sure it was still me a part of it and not that white woman chat tried to make me be.
That soulless human that it was trying to make you be. Um, when you say that you have to learn things the hard way, I don't necessarily. I frame it differently,
Okay,
and
let's
I
hear
say
it.
I frame it differently because I'm a similar girly,
Mhm.
and I don't. I say God has to give it to me in such an extreme way because if He doesn't, then I'm not going to get it. I'm not a little hint.
Mm-mm.
So when you say, that you are, the hard lesson, I think that it's in its design way for you to get its full understanding or for you to walk away from something.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's how it has been for me in my experience. Because when you say when we in retrospect and we look at those old journals or we think back on the experience, you can see the little hints all along.
Ooh.
But you were ignoring it. So there you
Like,
go.
but it don't be ignored it like your back turn. I'd be like, "Oh, oh."
It literally be right there. It's literally you use the white woman. It's like literally a white woman in the scary movie. Like, what's that? And you just keep going towards it, and that's how we're doing it. We're like,
Mhm.
we got cut the first. It was a little scab, so we was like, oh, that's a little scab.
Yeah.
No, that didn't mean nothing. So it had to be like you had to get
Gunshot
hit by a
wound.
car.
You
You
girl.
had to. Your
Yeah.
leg had to be broken. You had to be placed in a cast. You got to be hanging on by your thread
You do.
in order for the lesson to take place. So from one
Mm.
girlie to another who, like I said, I don't want to call it like that way, but it's like I want to say maybe it's our personality type. It has to
Mhm.
be that way to for change to happen. I'll say that.
Hello. That's it. That's my thing. I say it all the time. Like sometimes I'll deliver something to somebody and they'll be like, that's harsh. I'll be like, well, from pain comes change, babe. You know what I mean? Like from pain comes
Seriously. So wise.
change.
So wise. So that's really great. So you had this reflection, you look back on some things.
Yeah.
Your initial idea was not what was calling you. I think God was basically showing you what you're expressing is that initial idea wasn't going to spark anything
Yeah. Not right now.
within, not right now, within you or the world or whatever your initial, your goal was. Because you like the goal was to write a book, but God was like, yeah, writing a book, but it has to have a purpose behind it.
Yeah,
So this
absolutely.
is the purpose right now. And I think you also needed to go through the journey for
Yeah.
healing. So
Mm.
let's go into the initial part of it. We talked about the conception and you touch on it a bit in your book, like the initial, like, oh my God, I'm pregnant.
Mhm.
So, what was going through your mind for those who haven't read the book and
Yeah.
you're like, you find out that you are with child, and then you have to go deliver this news to the parent? Dun, dun, dun.
Girl.
Take us there.
So, first of all, me and him were kicking it, and he asked me one day, he was like, has your uterine wall been shedding? And I was like, excuse me? You know what I
What?
mean? Like, why would you ask me that like that? Like, please. I was like, actually, now that you say it, no. I'm just living life like it's golden. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah, no. And so I was calling one of my homegirls, and I was like, dang, I need to go, get a test. And she's like, oh, girl, just come over and sit in the cabinet. And I was like, oh, you just keep
You
those.
just have that
She was like,
laying
yeah.
around?
She's like, yeah, just come over.
No judges, but it's not a common thing that I just have laying
I
around.
don't got nails. I still don't got nails in my house, right? So I go over there. I go over there. I do the thing you have to do to take the test. I sit that test on the back of the toilet, and we're sitting in there having a good key. Like, Molly, listen, it was 30 minutes before I even thought about it. I thought I was.
Right. Like, oh, we were here for a reason.
He was like, "Girl, no shade. Do you want to go check that test?" I was like, "Girl, I should." But in my mind, I'm thinking, "There's no way I could be pregnant." If we go back to when I was like 23, I tried to have a kid. I wanted to have a kid with somebody I was with. The Lord was like, "This is
No,
when I
ma'am.
tell you, this is not what you want." But I went, I went to the doctor, and they were telling me like it's a slim chance that you will even be able to get pregnant. So I had grieved that part of my life. I was ready to go see my brother in Florida with his kid and just be an auntie and come back home. I was ready. I'd made that up already.
Yeah,
And so in my mind, I'm like, this test is gonna say negative. I'm probably just stressed, child, eating something
that's what it
wrong.
is.
I don't know.
Mhm.
What? But there's no way, even though you've been doing the thing, there's no
Here's the thing. The doctor messed you up at 23. See, they didn't really mess you up. You heard slim chance,
it
and
was
in
like
your mind, slim chance was like 0%. When
zero.
slim chance is like 95%, and that 5% is actually very possible.
The five,
I'm just
you
throwing
know what I
numbers
mean?
out there.
The
But
percentage
you
was
heard what you
so
wanted to hear.
small. All I heard was it was like he said it was like a 10% chance or something small. Like, and I
Yeah.
was like, dang, y'all know that? But girl, because I said, oh, okay, cool. I have been
Yeah.
riding on that little 10% or whatever it was, forever.
Literally.
Do you
Literally riding on it.
you hear me? And here we are. So I go, I goes to check that test, and I went in there. I said, "I'll be damned. That is clear." You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like the vision test when they be like, "Can you read line 5?" And you be like, "Absolutely not."
They're
That
like
was
1 or 2. It was very clear.
it was very clear. I said, "Oh, these contacts are great." This test was the one, girl. But that test was clear. I said, I wonder how long you've been in here staying pregnant. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
how long did it take for this to actually pop up? Because it's very,
Mhm.
like, not a smud in place.
No.
So I'm like, whoo, here we go. I've got to tell the man who is not my man. You know what I mean? Like, so I just tell Doggy Bone to pull up right out there. I'm like, come on, you work.
So for full context, this was a casual lover.
Yes, this was a casual
He was
thing.
a he was a fun buddy.
Oh, a lot of fun. Having a time. Do you hear me? And I can laugh about this now. And I love
Right.
this. Because had this been like 3 years ago, I give it 3. I
Yeah.
would have been on here like, child, he was trifling. Like, girl, we was having
Yeah.
a time. You hear me? A time was had.
Yeah. What is
Oh,
so interesting about pregnancy, even because my first child was out of wedlock, and then my second child was in wedlock. But both times, right? Because life is beautiful and a miracle. You know how babies are made, but you're shocked at it still. You're like,
yeah.
that good time really, it really make the people walking around.
Wow.
You be like,
Like,
it's yeah, yeah, that's
crazy.
it. Okay,
That,
so
yeah,
you tell Doggy Bone to pull on up.
pull
He
up.
comes
Pull up.
over and
I just tell him, I'm like, I said, this is what I said too. I said, what if I am pregnant? I just wanted to see. I'm like, I just need to see. Because, I knew that he had 3 kids and date was he took care of them. So I'm like, okay. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, he got 3. I know they older. But okay, first let's see though. You know what I mean? Like, let's not just put too much on him. You know what I mean? Because I don't want him to come back and be like, no. I'm gonna cry in the car. And I don't want
yeah,
to cry in this car with this man. So I'm like, what if I am pregnant? And he just was like, real casually. Oh, I don't want no more kids. He had bought some food. He had bought me some food. We was gonna eat. And I don't want no more kids. And I was like, oh, you know.
Yeah, I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
It's the baby
Yeah,
up in here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
yeah.
pregnant.
Mhm.
And when I told him that, he was like, well, he's like, that does not really change anything for me. I really don't want any more kids. And I said, well, I understand that. I said, but I'm in a different place. You know what I mean? I was like, I wasn't supposed to be able to do this. So for me, it's kind of like I want this. You know what I mean? I've always wanted it, but when I was told I couldn't have it, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? I moved on from it. But now that it's here,
Yeah.
I want this. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And he was honest. He was like, I don't think that that's going to change for me. And I was like, understandable. I'm literally fighting tears though at this point because
Yeah.
that's not what I
You put
wanted.
it on a brave face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not what I wanted to hear. You know what I'm saying? And I just was like, I understand that this is his decision, but right now I'm salty because it's his decision, but I'm also salty because this is something that we should have discussed pre getting into the fun stuff. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, that's what I was most salty about. It wasn't like, oh, I wanted to control his answer. No. I was like, and that this, how you see stuff and they be like, at this moment is when she knew she fucked up. Like that is
Yeah.
how I felt in that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, oh damn, you know what I mean? But I still had not made the decision to be like, oh, I'm gonna keep the baby. I was still like, okay, I don't know because I don't want to make this decision and I have to do this alone. My family has always been super supportive, but I wasn't the person to like to put things on you. So
Yeah.
after I told him and we had that conversation, I went to my mom and my stepdad and my dad, and I was like, hey, my mom is remarried. So of course my mom and stepdad knew first. But I'm like, I'm pregnant. I know I'm grown. You know what I mean? I'm not
Mhm.
a teenager, but I do feel like a teenage girl. Like,
Mhm. It does it I know what you mean because it does feel
mhm.
like that.
I feel
Because
like
with my first
the
child,
episode of Girlfriends. Remember Girlfriends when
yeah,
she was pregnant? That is
yeah.
literally how I felt.
And then, like, the bubbles come up and you're like,
Yes.
"Me?"
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Mhm.
know exactly what you mean because I was 25 when I had my first child, and so
Mhm.
I still felt little. I felt like 16 and pregnant,
Girl,
but very much grown.
very much. And
Yeah.
but I did tell them and I asked them what they thought. I told them the position I was in and the one thing, though I was hurting, the one thing I did not want to do is become like crippled in the position, being like I was a victim and like I was not a victim. This was not a victim thing, but I am in a space where I want to keep this. So what do y'all want to do? You know what I mean? Like, are y'all going to be able to help me? And if you don't think you are, then I know what to do on the back end. Like I was already in therapy. I already know how to work this out. You know what I mean? Like I know how I have to work it out if it had to go the other way. But of course, my mom was like, absolutely. Like you can definitely keep this baby. You can do it. I know you can do it. And I'm with you 100%. And for her, it was like, no, I don't, this man I married is cool and all, but me,
Yeah.
I'm with
Yeah.
you if whatever you want to do. Well,
Yeah.
because before my mom was remarried, it was my brother and I and her. So to her, it's like whatever
This is
you
us.
want to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's still us, sister. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? But I told her, I'm like, if I have this baby, I'm gonna want to stay here for a little while because I want to be by myself. I don't know.
We need our moms.
Yeah.
We
I'm like, I don't
moms
know
need
what.
our moms. It's I think that is the natural order of things.
Yeah.
Of moms to usher in their
Mhm.
daughters, the whole nine. That's a very critical time, and
Mhm.
you're so vulnerable during that time. Even like
For sure.
at the beginning, like that knowing part, you needed your mom to say the words that she said.
Yeah, I did.
You
I
need
did.
that reassurance to know that I am making the right decision because whether or not the father of this child is involved, as long as I have my mom, I know things are gonna be okay because you witnessed your mom make things okay. your
Mhm.
whole life. You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
I want to go back to, because what you're explaining to the audience
Mhm.
is what we read in the book, and I felt that in the book. I felt like I was in the moment.
Yeah.
And when that person, said what he said to you, and something you and I talked about at a point after I had the privilege of reading the book, we talked about a little bit of the shame
Yeah.
that comes with single motherhood, or I don't like the titles baby mama, baby daddy.
Ooh,
I joke with it, like even with my son's father, we
yeah.
jokingly say baby mama, baby daddy, but that's only within close quarters. But in public spaces, I say my son's father.
Mhm.
And you and I talked about this idea of the judgment and the shame behind, well, you picked them. You
Ooh.
did this, the blame game of you
Mhm.
did. And something that stood out for me that you and I talked about personally, that you said in the book, is that you observe this person taking care of their children, right?
Yes.
And that is something that is spoken in these online streets, in these blue pill rooms, on these podcasts, right? Like, well, you
Yeah.
saw that he wasn't taking care of the.
Mhm.
And you're a front seat observer, like, oh, he takes care of his kids. So, even if we're, not planning for a kid, but you're thinking in your mind, if this does happen, even though I'm not trying to, if it does, I know in your mind you're thinking, oh, my kid gonna be straight. This is a person, character wise,
Yeah.
right, that takes care of their kids. Secondly, this is a person that has a degree. This is a person that's gainfully employed.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
in your mind, you're like, you're check box, check box, check box. It's okay. But then it's like, now you inform this person and they are adamant about, as
Yeah.
as you mentioned, like, I don't care. That's not what I'm trying to do. So can you speak to the shame, so to speak, and the healing behind that, and how do you heal and overcome those? Because those are very strong.
Those are very heavy. Those are very heavy moments, and you have to, I think in every healing situation, there's a few things you have to do. And the first thing is you really have to start with yourself and start with what you know, and kind of let go of what you did not know. Because I think a lot of times when we get to the point of healing, we think about, oh, like I knew he was taking care of his three children. And then before you can get to healing and you're finding out all these things, you're like, well, wait, he got other kids. He's not taking care of other kids. And so you kind of group it all together. You know what I mean? And because of the way you feel and because of what you're seeing on social media, right? Because
Mhm.
that's important too. That's a factor. I get on social media and I see people having these very general conversations about baby mama, baby daddy. And I'm starting to feel like, are they talking about me? Do they know me? You know what I mean? They know my situation.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
you
like,
feel it, you feel like an
ooh,
attack.
you
You feel it,
do.
you feel
You
it.
ready to fight? You ready to fight them? Okay. Ready to
And you be ready to hop on the comments. But in my situation,
typing. Do
uh-huh,
you understand? Because y'all don't know him.
a
Okay.
keyboard warrior.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think in those situations, I think the shame of that all, you have to really remember what you know and what you knew at the moment that you made the decision. You know what I'm saying? And work with yourself from there. Because if you work with yourself from anywhere else, it's gonna spiral out of control. You're gonna start to tell yourself, and because I started to work through forgiveness when I was still in PPD or I was coming out of postpartum depression, those the way your brain is functioning is really not how your brain is going to function when it's like leveled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you really, me being the girl we talked about earlier who wants to go back to Wednesday of 1990 and read what I wrote or whatever the case may be, that was so helpful in the whole coming through the shame. Because if I go back to this date when me and him kicked it and his kids were there, then it's like, okay, these are the kids that you knew about. This is what you knew about. You can only work from what you knew about from him and then what you know about from you. So working through that shame looked like me being like, okay, this is what you knew. Forgive yourself for the decisions you made for what you knew. And those decisions aren't that he was a deadbeat because you didn't know that. Those decisions aren't that he didn't have his own money, because he had it. The decision was to involve yourself in something when you, Jordyn, were not in a space to be involving yourself with anything, because I truthfully had just got out of something ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, that's a story in itself. It might be a book later, but I had just got out of a real relationship that was ridiculous. You know what I mean? I had been out of that relationship all of 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And, we decided to kick it, but we weren't supposed to be doing nothing. And then, you know the story. You know what I mean? Like, and it gets there.
And he was a when you come out of a hard relationship, but a
Yeah.
hot
Yeah.
mess situation, right?
Mhm.
You're longing for someone to want you.
Yeah.
You're longing for, and so I'm pretty sure
Yes.
the father of your child was a welcomed.
Yeah, absolutely. It was
You
like,
know what I mean? It was like my heart is open for some fun. Somebody to tell me
hello.
I'm fine. Somebody to tell me like, baby, you know what I mean? And you're eating it up
To be
because
where
you
I'm
need
at. You know what I'm saying? He just wants to be where I'm at. You know what I mean? I'm like, I like that. I like
it, and
that.
you need that because you like this.
Yeah.
I know, I know.
Yes, yes.
So, so the you said you talk when you touched on your postpartum depression and you started to heal. But the book is Forgive Them and Parent Better. What did your parenting look like before the forgiveness? And what is the noticeable difference that you can see in your parenting
Now,
post forgiveness?
before I'd forgiven him, I would see little things in my son that looked like him, and it would send me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just send me. I wouldn't do anything or yell or be mean to my son, but it would send me, and I could not. I could not function in that moment. I would be like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I can't take this. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like those feelings? Because even though you said you weren't yelling at the time and none of
Hmm.
those things, do you feel like it would have grown into
Yeah.
something? Okay.
Absolutely, because I've seen it, and not in my mom. My mom and my dad were divorced, but she never, because me and my brother, like right now with this short hair, I look like my mom. I look more like her. But like, me and my brother look like my father's family. Like, I honestly look just like his mother. My brother looks like my dad. So, but my mom never was like looking like your daddy. You know what I mean? But I've seen that from women in the past who have, who are single moms. As soon as the kid, you're doing that shit like your daddy was doing, like, and it just kind of was like, well, he's 8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's 8,
Yeah.
man. You know,
Yeah. And
and
with
for
a
me,
disdain. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't want that, and I remember that was one thing I told God. I was like, I don't want to parent him like that, because there are things, though we don't talk, he's not an active father, there are things about him that I really liked. You know what I mean? Like, I like things about him, and some of those things my son has, and I don't want him to get 10 or whatever the case may be, and he's doing something like him that I actually thought was a good trait, and I'm like, because it's his, I'm like, do something else.
Shutting it down. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to
Mhm.
be that. And I've seen that a lot, and I know men, and I think we all do, but we know men who grew up with bitter mothers, and they hate them now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they hate their mothers. And I'm like, "Oh God." You know what I mean? Like, I don't, because I wanted you, Kyrie, I wanted you. I
Mhm.
don't want to shun you because of who you act like when I we decide to keep you from him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I wanted you. Like, I can't have you grow up and be like, I hated my mom. You know what I mean? Like, I hated my mom. I want you to
Yeah.
grow up and say, I want you to be able to grow up and say, at least I know she loved me. She might have,
That's most important. First
yeah,
and foremost, that
like,
my mama loved me
yes.
despite the circumstances. Because the
Mhm.
the beauty, I think an important piece of being a parent is
Yeah,
transparency.
I
So
do.
he's gonna know this story. You're
Yeah,
gonna share it, no
absolutely.
matter how painful it is,
Hmm.
and he's gonna be able to take that information because you're not bashing the dad and telling the story. You're telling the truth,
Absolutely
and
not.
he's gonna be able to be like, my mama could have. did this a whole nother way, and look at the
Yeah.
way she chose to do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And with that, you touched on like being able to tell the story. The one thing that was important to me, and this was even when I was struggling, with postpartum depression, but the one thing that was important to me and has been important to me is to practice apologizing to Kyrie.
Mhm.
Kyrie's on the spectrum, so he doesn't communicate what he understands all the time. But when I do something or I get upset and I can't regulate, I will say, Kyrie, I'm sorry. Mommy's sorry. This is just a lot. We're learning together, and I'll try to figure out what he needs. And I won't ask too many questions, but I'll say, like, do you want to have juice before we go? You want goldfish before we go? Or you want to just sit? And he can give me from those options, he can say, sit right here or fish. You know what I mean? Like he can
Yeah.
give me something. So it's still a learning curve, but I'm like, I've been doing that since he was little. Even if like when I was breastfeeding and he would bite me and I would, you know what I mean? Like jump, I'd be like, oh, mom's sorry, mommy is sorry. But
Hold your poor little teeth, your poor little nips.
I'm gonna need reconstructive surgery, son. You know what I mean? I wanted to make that a practice because discipline looked different from when we were kids to now that we have kids.
Yeah.
And I
We've
know,
grown.
child, my mom wasn't apologizing to no kids, okay? And I feel her, you know what I mean? We were bad. I was sassy. My brother was like sneaky and I was sassy. So it was just like I'm not apologizing to y'all. And I feel it. I do. But for Kyrie, I'm like, I need to make that a habit because
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm his master. He's my slave.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I don't want you to feel that way. So that is something I've been working on. And I think that apology language has put me in a place where I will be okay saying, mommy and daddy, da, 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 all these things. And people ask me all the time though, like, how will you tell him when the time comes? And I'm like, in his language. I'm one of those
Mhm.
people. I don't know if God has blessed me with this or if everybody else has it and they just don't use it, but I'm one of those people who I don't remember, but I can know that when I was 16, I was kind of hot. You know what I'm saying? Like, or when I was 12, I was inquisitive. So I kind of take myself back to that whenever I'm working with another kid. So I try to remember that with my kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And your discernment will lead you. You'll know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It you'll know.
Yeah.
Um, had before I get to that
Yeah.
question, how did you know that forgiveness was forming in your heart? Like, do you remember day one, or do you remember it just gradually entering into your heart and you knew that it was taking root?
Child, it was an aggressive thing. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was not a gradual thing. And I talk about in the book finding forgiveness in the bathroom floor. I just remember one day I have had plenty of days up until that point of feeling like somebody else could probably be a better parent to this nigga. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Like, I remember just having those thoughts, and they would be as casual as that. They sound like you. They sound just like you. It don't sound like an
Yeah.
imposter. It's not a white woman talking to you. It's your voice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was like somebody else could take better care of him. Like maybe I'm doing this wrong. I don't think that I got a hold on this. And I talk about this in the book, so I'll share it here. But I was going like he was asleep. I was going upstairs. The plan was for me to go to sleep, but I just sat down and fell asleep. Had no clue though that I was actually asleep. Because in my mind, I was up, I was walking right back down the stairs. I was going to get the bleach to clean something and decided I was going to drink it. In that thought, I opened it. And when I went to lift it up in that vision, I smelt it and woke myself up. I was like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like this is, oh no. And I just started crying. Like I was in the bed. I remember getting up and it's a mirror on my closet. My closet doors are like, is this really pretty mirror? So I looked up and I saw myself looking a mess in that mirror and I was crying. I ran to the bathroom immediately and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know why these thoughts are haunting me because that's what it felt like. I'm like,
Mhm.
these thoughts haunt me at the weirdest moments and I don't understand it. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be this mom. I don't want to be the mom that thinks somebody else could take care of him. I don't want to be the mom that like hates her baby daddy and you know rides on that, because that's just not who I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And God told me in that moment, he was like, you need to forgive them. Like, you need to forgive him. You have to forgive him. And I remember being like, what? You want
Mm-hmm.
me to do it?
Wait.
He said, asking me.
I'm telling you, daughter.
He's like, and God was like, so do you want to get up off the bathroom floor or you want to stay here? You know what I mean? And you know how little kids be like, I want to get up off the like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
felt.
Yeah, God, I
And
don't want
then
to drink the bleach. I want to leave it.
can
I
I have
want to
some
leave.
Gatorade? You know, some Gatorade, like you know what I mean? I just was like, I don't want to do this no. Like I don't want to do it. So I don't want to do it no more. So I said the words, but the thing about it is it ain't in the words. It's literally in the moving forward, in the shuffle of things. And because Kyrie's father at that time was infamous for randomly hitting me up just to talk to me, like nothing to do with Kyrie, but just to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. I remember it happening, and I'm watching the phone ring, and I looked up, and I was like, "This the test, ain't it? You know what I mean? This the test, ain't it? Like how I'm gonna deal
Feeling
with
like you know it.
is the test." You know what I'm saying? And instead of me going back into old habits to keep things cool, I just was like, I really don't want to talk. I don't know what you're calling me for, but I really don't want to talk. Because
Mm-hmm.
I had this thing where I would try to keep it cool because while I did not expect him to change, I'm like, if I'm nice enough,
If I'm good,
hello,
yeah.
maybe,
If I'm a good girl, and I'm
maybe,
so nice and I'm peaceful and
but all that on the
my
front end,
tone is good.
hello, on the front end, that was me, but on the
Yeah.
back end, I'm like, raggedy mother, you know what I'm saying? I'm in a really, really weird space with the
Yeah.
feelings. But this day,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, I just was honest. And I was like, there you go. Good,
Mm-hmm.
good job. And as people asked me about him or told me about his movement, because that's a thing, you know what I mean, for people to do, it
Yeah.
became less and less. I was tense or like, oh, I hope I don't run into him at this when he comes to town. Like it became less and less of that and more of that's what's up. Or I really don't, it's no reason to tell me
Yeah.
that without it being malice. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So the more and more, the way I knew it was happening was me being put in situations where I had to either see him or somebody brought him up. And I was like, oh, look at me. Like, and it wasn't even a thing I was forcing. It was just like, oh, girl, look at you. Look at you not acting like that.
It's time. There is a cliche saying, and I don't think it is applicable to all things, even though people try to make it applicable. To
Mhm.
me, it's applicable to certain things.
Yeah,
But the idea of time, I won't say heals all wounds. I'll
but
say
here's
time
one.
heals certain wounds.
Mhm.
And there was time. So over time, those things fell off of you. You didn't
Absolutely.
you didn't feel the ickiness in your heart. You didn't feel the irritation of his name. You didn't feel the irritation of people bringing the bones to you. It was just
Right.
like, so?
Like
And
that.
that's the great feeling when you get to, what do you want me to do
Yeah, yeah.
with
It's
it?"
such a
Okay.
like it is a feeling that I didn't even know was a thing. Because I was doing too much. I was juggling, like being like, I really hate that you made the decision. I hate that you left me with this situation of being like, but also I don't want to present that way. I want to present with a smile on my face. Like it was all of that.
Do you think that young mothers who have experienced abandonment, because that's what it is,
What it is.
abandonment,
Mhm,
um, they've experienced the abandonment from these guys, and we
mhm,
talked about the shame that is put on them, especially for people who consume social media. It's
mhm,
coming in their forefront.
mhm.
And when you talked about being honest, do you think that enough young ladies are not identifying the abandonment and being honest about it so that they could get to healing? And how can they switch that around, in your opinion?
I don't think enough people are. I think we've made it a norm to just kind of take that baby mama stigma because you ain't wrong. But the truth of the matter is, somewhere along the lines, you played a part. The abandonment is what it is, right? Just because you know where the part you play does not take away what happened to you. What it
Yes.
does is it takes you out of the framework of looking at this or looking at yourself even as a damsel in distress or like a victim
A
to a
victim.
villain, because you're
Yeah.
not a victim. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's something that I had to look at myself as. I remember one time when I was in a car with a friend and she was like, but you had to have known like that he had other children he was not taking care of. And I was like, but I didn't. And I don't
Yeah.
like that you said that to me. You know, I did not
Mhm.
know. I'm like, the thing that I did know though is that I had no business running up behind that boy. Like your granny used to say, you ain't got no business running like I had no business. That's what I
Yes.
know. You know what I'm saying? And I will take full responsibility for that. I had no business
Yeah.
running behind that boy in the state that my life was in. What I did
Mhm.
not know was about the other children. You know, and that's his business to know. Mine now, but his business to know that. He did not share that. So I remember saying that, and I think about that, and I'm like, people just don't understand that when you say those kind of things to people,
Mhm.
it can really put them in a place. And if I didn't know how to communicate that you said
Yeah.
that, I don't like that because it's not true.
Yeah.
Not that probably could have pushed me a little bit further, but I think that
Mhm.
to answer, to go back to your question in real time, we have to be honest about where we actually messed up at. We
Mhm.
have to be honest about that. And then
Mhm.
we have to come, be able to walk that down and say, and he decided to to abandon the child. You
Yes.
know what I mean? Because
Yes.
that is who is the most important here.
Yeah.
I think
And
that
I want to
the
stay. That's
yes, the not important the important part is the child. It's not you. That's
mhm.
something that we have to kind of salvage too. And I
Mhm.
get it. Like, these men, they can get women pregnant. They just walk away like nothing ever happened, so on and so forth. And we're left with our feelings for them and then having to raise a kid or children that belong to them as well. That's
Mhm.
something for you to work out. You
Yeah.
have to work that shit out because your feelings for them have nothing to do with that kid. That kid does not deserve that love that turned to disdain. You know what I'm saying? That kid deserves the love, and they're going to feel it. I don't care what we say. If I hate my baby daddy, my kid is
It's
gonna,
gonna come out.
and they're not going to know how to differentiate that. They're going to think, oh, you hate me. You
Mhm.
must hate me. Because
Exactly.
since I've noticed that since I've forgiven and moved on, my son, he's always felt like home was home, but he's at a place now and has been for a while. He don't even want to spend the night with his great people. I'll be like, no,
Yeah.
you stay, baby. I love you.
But I need a break. One thing that I've done and I continue to do, and I do it, I pray every morning. Me and my son, well, I pray every morning with my son on the way to school.
Mhm.
But one thing I make sure he knows is that I pray for his dad. I call his dad's name out loud, and
Yeah.
I pray for specific things about his dad.
Mhm.
I pray for the other mother.
Mhm.
I pray for the other mother's
Yeah.
children.
Mhm.
Um, Cause my baby's daddy. It's three baby mamas.
Period.
And but I think it is important that my son hear me pray for all of us. And I
Mhm.
think it's important that my son hear me ask God to help my son's father be a good father. And he has been, even through, if through
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
has consistently been a good dad to them.
Mhm.
And he's done the best that he can, even through limitations.
Yeah.
He's done the best, and they think the world of him. And so
Absolutely.
for me, it's all that matters. I'll be like, he wasn't the
Okay.
best. Okay. We're trying to heal. They say it's better to raise um healed children rather than try to fix a broken adult. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to get them to make sure that when adulthood get here,
Yeah.
we're not reeling from some things. Everybody's gonna have a thing,
It's something. Yeah, but
but
not.
whatever I can help not it be,
Yes. Come on
doing
now.
it. In the book, you talk about nurturing little Jordyn.
Yes, girl.
And I know that was part of healing, and it's a continued healing.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that helps little Jordyn, and how did you identify that little Jordyn needed to be nurtured in order for you to parent better on your healing journey?
So one incident, I was in a group chat with my homegirls, and we be giving it to each other. Like we some jokesters, we play a lot. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And she said something, and she was just this is normal behavior for us. We joke all the time, and she did not joke out of bounds. We joke the same way. So
Mhm.
she said it, she made a joke, and for whatever reason, that day, that joke felt like a dog pile. And I did not want to talk no more. I just kind of was like, I don't think that's funny. You know how people be with this stuff. That's funny. But that's not my normal framework with them.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? So I'm getting dressed, and I just was like, God, I don't know what that is. I was like, I don't know. And this is in the middle of all of this stuff as well. So I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I don't like that. Like when something come up like that, I'm like, God, I don't like that. This is a friend who is the friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like this is my person. And I'm
yeah,
like, this is not, I don't like that. And
yeah.
so I had a very quiet moment, and I remember being a little girl at Garfield, because I went to Garfield, honey. But I remember being a little girl at Garfield and people making fun of me, like girls making fun of me. You know what I'm saying? Because I had thick glasses and all this stuff. And it would be a thing where the girls would go from talking about my glasses, talking about me being light skinned with long hair. You know what I mean? And it would be a problem or whatever. And I understand it now. But back then, it just felt so mean. You know what I mean? And I was like, dang, why is this feeling so like, why does this feel similar to that? Like, why
Mhm,
am I having a flashback of this? And I had to sit in it. I'm late for where I'm gonna go.
mhm,
I'm like, why is that? And one thing that I do to kind of sit with my younger self, whether it be like the little girl or like the preteen, is I'll color. So I'm like,
mhm.
let me just color and see where this feeling is taking me. Because obviously I'm going somewhere, and I don't need to cut this off. Because once I go out, I'm grown out there. Little Jordan is back at home in the corner crying. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mhm,
So I'm coloring, and I was praying, I'm coloring, I'm talking to God, and he just was like, you need to work through this feeling. These are feelings that you have not worked through. You were a little girl who was teased and talked about. And sometimes when these jokes come up,
mhm.
sometimes it hurts. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be honest about who people were to you at that point when you were a little girl, how it hurt then. And if you
Mhm.
don't heal what it hurt then, it's going to start to hurt now. And you're going to begin to kind of pluck your friends off. And I was like, oh, like, whoa, like this is
And
crazy.
any little thing that they do, you like, oh, you trying to take you because you said this friend was a friend, but you're gonna
Yeah.
look at it, oh, she's trying to take a dig at me. So then
Yes,
you're gonna go through a reel in your head,
of
every
all the
joke, right?
days.
That was
Yes,
joking. And then you could be like, from the gate, this nigga.
from the jump. And I know good and well that I done said something. We done went back and forth. We done, as the
Yeah.
old people say, we done played the dozens.
But now you in your heart, and so you like, yeah,
Mhm.
she ain't I knew she ain't like me.
Yeah,
So that
from
first time that
okay.
it's like, okay, no, let's reel it back in, because you got to think,
Mhm.
like you said, this person's a real friend to me. We could name the name and do the things, but
Yeah,
I know this is a friend. So
yeah,
what is happening inside of me?
absolutely. And so after I walked that down, I was like, well, I don't want that. I don't
Mhm.
want that. So, as I color sometimes, I'm like, at that point when I was coloring or blowing bubbles or even playing with like my son, because even that is a part of getting back to childlike things. So when I would color sometimes, I would just tell myself, like, it's okay. Like, kids are just kids. They're not mean. I hate to say that kids are mean, because that's just the easy way to say it. Like, kids are mean.
Kids
Kids are
be doing things.
Kids are mean, you know what I mean? And I just was like, kids were mean. Kids didn't really understand how their words actually hurt other people. You know what
I
I
I
mean?
want to I want to push back on that.
You said they are mean.
Please no, because
The gate.
you're a mom now,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And
Kyrie
you're
has
gonna
been mean to
see
me.
some things in that kid that's gonna take you back to child. Because
He has
even my
been.
son, he knows when he wants to stick that dagger.
Yeah, Kyrie does too at 6.
He
Like,
knows when he wants to.
yeah. Yeah,
They're
they are
they're
mean.
conscious.
These kids, actually, they are. Actually, I take that back.
But what happens with kids is you have to have parents that recognize that and redirect that kid
Redirect that.
to
Absolutely.
come back and say, like my son might come home and say something happened. And I say, well, maybe tomorrow you need to go and apologize.
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
the thing that but if you have a parent that, some people, like you said, Kyrie's going to know I wanted him. There's parents that don't really want
Yeah,
their kids. And
absolutely.
you'll be shocked because you like, you
Girl.
know, so there's parents that really don't want their kids. There's parents that are not really paying attention to
To them.
what their kids are doing.
Mhm.
And those same kids are going to school with your kids, and
Mm,
then they're wreaking havoc. So
absolutely.
my pushback is,
You said kids are
let me
mean.
know.
But I did, like, I would sit with myself and I would color and I would just kind of talk to that little girl who was bullied or talked about, you know what I mean, or made to feel small or even embarrassed at a young age. Like, I can remember being a little girl just having to go to the bathroom, and this girl hated me so much. Her and her brother. I don't know why they hated me. I literally was just a little girl with the glasses. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. But
What's their name?
her and her brother. She said, "Say their
Tell
name."
me.
I was a little girl.
Say that because I inboxed them. You want to
I'm
know
using it.
something?
I'm hiding. Okay, they came in and kicked the door in, embarrassed me while I'm using the full on squat like a little girl. I was so embarrassed, mortified. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the little girl who I'm trying to like heal. I was
You got to
literally,
heal her because
ooh.
who raised y'all?
Girl, I could not believe that I just was like, oh my God. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that little girl, I sit with her sometimes and I'll just say, like, kids were mean. You don't know what they were going through at home. And I know that does not feel good to 6-year-old you, but your mommy loved you. Your daddy loved you. You came from a place of love. You had a very supportive family. Like, just
Right.
re-explaining that to myself. And I'm like, some parts of me is like, this is stupid. But other parts of me is like, this is working. Like, my
It's
confidence looks so
needed.
different. My confidence looks real different now.
No, it is so needed because I talked to my childhood bully a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
and she shared with me some things that I did not know. Because when you're a kid, you don't know these things that's happening at these kids' houses.
Mm-mm, we don't.
And I won't share all things that she said, but one of the things that she shared was that her mama was on crack.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know. And when I told my older sister was like, you didn't know. I was in kid eyes. Like, your
Yes.
kid lives in. I
Yes.
didn't know. And then she told me some other stuff. And I'm like, oh, you were bleeding your trauma
On me. Yeah.
on me. Not she was a bully of many, but
Yeah. Let's
she
believe
was
the
just
masses.
bleeding. She was
The
bleeding on
masses.
everybody. And when she, I'll share with you offline all the things that she said, but my little kid self and my adult self wanted to
Yeah.
just wrap her in my arms, and I'm
And
like,
heaven. Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
so when we're talking about the first person I ever really heard talk about the healing the inner child was comedian Monique.
Mm.
And she's like, we're all little kids in big kids' bodies and,
Yep.
nurturing and things. So I remember she talked about that's why I got back into dance. She's like, I remember as a kid, I loved dancing.
Mm-hmm.
She used to do those video
Yep.
dance. And my little kid healing is comedy. Like, I've always been into comedy. I was a little girl watching You So Crazy. Probably should have been watching it. Comic View. So
Cracking it. Comic view on BET.
literally, I can tell you all the comments, all their jokes, their
Yeah.
punchlines. Like, to this day, that's my comfort. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
gravitate to comedy and comedians.
Absolutely.
Um, so I get that, that part. The beauty of growing into the woman that you've grown into that I can see, is you recognizing these things and you be looking at that little girl. One thing I always say to myself is, I wish I had the confidence of today back
Yes.
then. Like I'd be like,
Yeah.
if 16-year-old Tynee had this Tynee, girl,
Yeah.
what you saying? Because you don't be seeing how fly you are.
You
You don't
don't.
recognize it.
You don't
You
see
just
it.
downtrodden.
Ooh. And I mean, downtrodden. I looked at some old pictures from like 7th to 8th grade. I was in them pictures just like shrunken. I was like, up. You know what I mean? Like straighten up. Dang.
Stand up. And the
Yes.
crazy thing is, I know with me, I'm good with masking. So I look at those pictures and there's a smile, but
Mm-hmm.
I can go into the mind of that girl. I'm like,
That girl.
I know what she was thinking. I know
Yeah.
what she really thought. I know how
Yeah.
she presented and I know what she thought.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
thing that I said the other day, and we're gonna, you're gonna close us out with some tips was, and I saw this the other day and I said, oh, this needs to be in the Bible. This needs to be Tynee chapter 1, verse 1. And it said, forgive yourself for not knowing what only time could have taught you.
Yes.
And that's the word. So
That is.
close us out with a benediction, Sister Jordyn, on where the people can purchase this book, your social media handles, and what 3 takeaways that you want them to get from this work of yours.
Okay. So you can get the book over on Amazon. Okay.
Come
Well,
on.
also, once I give you my social media, which is Jordyn Anese, it's literally Jordyn Anese on everything. Be
Mhm.
looking out for a link because something's coming for March. It's gonna be great. It's going to be so it's gonna be great. So make sure you follow me on everything, Jordyn Anese. And then 3 takeaways from the book. So the first thing I want people to recognize from the book is to know that it starts with you, and also know that even just because it starts with you doesn't mean it has to end with you in shambles. It should end with you put together a little bit better than you were before. Okay? That's the first thing. The
Mhm.
second thing I want you to know is that forgiveness for the other parent is not for, it is for you, but it's not only for you, it's not for them, it's for your child or your children. It literally will change the way in which you move from the inside. You know what I'm saying? And it'll radiate onto them because the first thing, something I tell people all the time is I'm my son's first everything. I'm going to be he's going to feel everything for me. So if I'm feeling upset, he's going to feel upset. Like if he's going to feel it. So
That's
once
right.
you forgive them, it will give you a different kind of light.
Mhm.
And the last thing I'm going to give you is to take God with you through the entire process. At the moment you shut him out, the process is over. I can guarantee you. It's over. It's
But,
over.
but the beautiful thing about God is He gonna come back after a commercial break, like
So you want to start
continuation.
again? Like, do you want to start again?
But don't cut him out.
Don't cut him out. Keep him with you.
Don't cut 'em
Keep him with you.
out. Thank you so much, Jordyn, for joining today's talk. This was delightful.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited that you said, "Come on, girl."
Come on, come on. I was trying to do a new thing, but I said, "Oh my girl," and then I end up having another one too. But that's all. So we'll talk about that offline. It's true. Today talks fashion. Do you want to give any shout outs today?
I want to give a shout out to Kyrie's godparents. We just lost his godmom yesterday morning. She passed, but shout out to her. Her name is Carla Smith. And Carla was a light in our lives. And there was nobody else who would have taken that position of godparent, and loved my son so immensely. Like when I say with the fierceness of like a lion, you know what I mean? But the joy of like a kid being tickled on the bottom of their feet. Like that is how much she loved my son. But we lost her the other morning, and just shout out to her and her husband. You know what I mean? Keep him in your prayers. Lift him up. His name is Gerard. So just lift him up in prayer right now. But shout out to them because they had an opportunity and they took it to teach my son what love felt like. And he feels that every time he looks at a picture. So they are the shout out. They are the moment.
Shout out to the godparents and all godparents out there. Talkers, I want to thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Tynee Talks podcast featuring author Jordyn Anese. She can be found on all social media platforms under @Jordyn Anese. Be sure to go out and purchase her book, Forgive Them and Parent Better, available on Amazon. Oh, there it is right there. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Tynee Talks podcast. Share this with a friend. Follow me at Tynee Talks, at TYNEETALKS, at Tynee Talks, or at Tynee Talks podcast. Remember, this is the podcast that educates and entertains, where you come to laugh and learn. I'll talk to you all soon.